Hello, Landon and Logan. Gigi hasn't read you a book for a couple of weeks, so I thought maybe I'd read you one today. Today, we are going to read Little Red Riding Hood. I bet you've already had this story read to you, but this one's a little bit different, so see if you can see the difference in this book. It's kind of funny. All right, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Little Red Riding Hood. That's her mama. And here's Little Red Riding Hood. She always wore a bright red cloak and a bright red hood. See her coat, cloak, and her hood right there? And she's looking in the mirror saying, "I love my cloak." She lived with her mother in a cottage on the edge of some deep, dark woods. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother gave her a pot of Brussels sprout soup. Yum! Take this to your grandmother on the other side of the woods, she said, but remember the rules of the woods. So right here on this tree are the rules of the woods. So what are those? Number 1, keep to the path. Number 2, don't talk to wolves. "I promise," said Little Red Riding Hood, and off she went. So here she's going off, setting on the path. And look who is already watching her. Skippity skip, skippity skip, skippity skip. She's skipping along the way, just having a good old time, and look who's following her. "Oh, what a lovely day," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," called the woodcutter. This is the guy back here. He cuts wood. He's called a woodcutter. So he says good morning. "Good morning, woodcutter," said Little Red Riding Hood. "And can you find the wolf? Is he still watching her?" "Oh, he is." Little Red Riding Hood walked deeper and deeper and deeper into the deep, dark woods. Here she is, walking in the woods. So Little Red Riding Hood did not see the wolf was waiting for her on the path. And the wolf didn't see Little Red Riding Hood either. Little Red Riding Hood stumbled straight into the wolf. "Oh! Arg! Oof!" She ran right into him. "What are you doing in the middle of the path?" said Little Red Riding Hood, because she stayed on the path. Just as her mama had told her to, she stayed right on the path, so she didn't think she would have a problem. But here is the wolf right in the middle of her path. "I nearly spilled my grandmother's Brussels sprout soup," she said. And the wolf says, "Sprouts, yuck. Wolves only eat juicy red meat." Little Red Riding Hood had forgotten the rule, don't talk to wolves. She was talking to the wolf, wasn't she? The wolf was just about ready to gobble up Little Red Riding Hood, but had a brilliant idea. "I'll eat Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother." "And where does your granny live?" asked the wolf. "In the woods, right on the other side of the woods," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf raced to the cottage and knocked on the door. Tap, tap, tap. "Come in," called Grandmother. The wolf leaped into the room and gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother in 2 seconds flat. Bony, but not bad," he said. Then he pulled on her cap and jumped into bed and waited for Little Red Riding Hood to come. Soon there was another knock at the door. "Come again, snarled the wolf as softly as he could. Little Red Riding Hood looked at her grandmother. She thought she looked a little funny, a little different, not like her grandmother usually looked. Then she looked again. "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have," she says, because her granny didn't usually have ears like that. "All the better to hear you with," the wolf said. "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have. All the better to see you with." "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have. All the better to eat you with." And the wolf jumps out of the bed. In one bound, the wolf was out of the bed and gobbling up Little Red Riding Hood. "Delicious," he said. Then he fell fast asleep because he was full. His tummy was full now. He had eaten the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood. As he slept, he was snoring really loudly. "What's going on?" wondered the woodcutter. So the woodcutter is now looking through the window saying, "What is the wolf doing in that grandma's bed?" "He's eating that poor old woman," realized the woodcutter. He picked up some scissors. He snipped open the wolf's tummy. Snippity snip, snippity snip. And out popped the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood. Quick as a flash, Little Red Riding Hood picked up some stones and put them in the wolf's tummy. And they sewed it back up. When the wolf woke up, he tried to sneak out the door. Rattle, rattle, rattle. The rocks were rattling and making sounds. The stones rattled and rattled inside of him. "Now everyone can hear me coming," said the wolf. "I'll never catch anyone again." "Exactly," said the woodcutter. They didn't want him catching and eating anybody else again. "You'll just have to eat vegetables instead," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf was never able to eat another person. So now he's having to eat vegetables. He's eating some of that Brussels sprout soup. "Ugh, Brussels sprout soup," he says. He doesn't like it. As for Little Red Riding Hood, she never ever talked to a wolf again. The end. Hope you liked that little story about Red Riding Hood.